You watch the news and something in your chest tightens. Another scandal. Another promise broken. Another leader who somehow keeps power despite doing everything wrong. You call it corruption. You blame the system. You wonder if humans were ever really meant to govern themselves at all. But the real answer is far stranger than corruption. Politics isn't malfunctioning. It's working exactly the way millions of years of evolution built it to work. Your brain wasn't designed for senates or elections. It wasn't designed for cable news or campaign ads or push notifications about the latest scandal. It was designed for something much older. Small bands of survival, where who held power decided who ate, who mated, and who lived through the next drought. Somewhere between the savannas of East Africa and the marble floors of modern parliaments, that ancient wiring never got the memo that the game had changed. Here's where it gets strange. For decades, primatologist Frans de Waal studied chimpanzee troops at Burgers Zoo in the Netherlands. He watched alpha males rise to power, not through brute strength alone, but through alliances. He watched them groom supporters, punish rivals, and stage elaborate displays of dominance in front of the group. He watched something else too. When the alphas got too greedy, when they took too much and gave too little back, coalitions formed against them. The troop turned. The tyrant fell. Sound familiar? Anthropologist Christopher Boehm spent years studying hunter-gatherer societies across the globe, from the Kalahari to the Arctic, and found the same pattern buried in nearly every one of them. He called it reverse dominance hierarchy. In a typical primate troop, the strongest individual simply rules the rest. But in human bands, something unusual happened instead. The weak learned to gang up on the strong. Gossip became a weapon. Ridicule became a weapon. Ostracism became a weapon. In the most extreme cases, so did assassination. Anyone who tried to grab too much power, hoard too many resources, or boss the group around too aggressively risked being mocked, isolated, or quietly removed. Boehm argued this wasn't an accident. It was a system, one that emerged again and again in unrelated cultures with no contact between them. Humans, he believed, evolved a built-in allergy to tyranny, a kind of political immune response, thousands of years before the word politics existed. So why does it feel like that immune system keeps failing? Because scale broke it. That leveling instinct evolved for bands of maybe 50, 100 people, where everyone knew everyone, where gossip could travel across the entire group in an afternoon, where the person hoarding power slept 20 feet from the people he was taking it from. It was never built for nations of millions. It was never built for leaders you will never meet, insulated by institutions, distance, and screens. Your instinct to punish the abuse of power is still very much alive. It just doesn't know where to aim anymore. And that gap, the space between the instinct and its target, is where the darkest side of politics quietly lives. In 1961, psychologist Stanley Milgram ran an experiment that still unsettles people today. He told ordinary volunteers they were helping test memory and learning. Really, he was testing something else entirely. How far people would go if an authority figure simply told them to keep going. Participants were instructed to deliver what they believed were increasingly painful electric shocks to another person every time that person answered a question wrong. The shocks weren't real. The pain, the screaming, the pleading to stop, none of it was real. But the volunteers had no way of knowing that. Here's the unsettling part. Roughly 2 out of 3 participants delivered what they believed was the maximum, most dangerous shock available. Not because they were cruel, because a calm man in a lab coat told them the experiment required it. Milgram wasn't testing evil. He was testing obedience. What he found was that most ordinary people will hand enormous power over to authority, quickly and quietly, with surprisingly little resistance, as long as that authority looks official enough. Does that sound like something confined to a laboratory in the 1960s? A decade later, psychologist Philip Zimbardo ran the Stanford Prison Experiment. He took ordinary college students, screened carefully for stability and good mental health, and randomly assigned them to be guards or prisoners inside a mock jail built in a university basement. Within days, the so-called guards were humiliating prisoners, stripping away their names, forcing degrading tasks, escalating cruelty far beyond anything the study had intended. The experiment, planned to run 2 full weeks, was shut down after 6 days because it had spiraled that far, that fast. These weren't cruel people to begin with. They were ordinary students placed inside a system that quietly rewarded dominance and punished weakness. The system did the corrupting. The people simply filled the role it handed them. This is the darkest side of politics, and it has almost nothing to do with individual villains. Give a person unchecked power, distance from consequences, and a title that reframes cruelty as duty, and something ancient in the brain quietly shifts. Not because that person is secretly a monster, because the human brain treats status and dominance as some of the most powerful rewards it can receive. Neuroscientists have traced this to the brain's dopamine reward circuitry, the same system involved in food, sex, and addiction. Climbing a hierarchy, winning status, being obeyed without question. All of it activates reward pathways in ways that are genuinely difficult to walk away from once tasted. Power doesn't just corrupt as a figure of speech. It hijacks a reward system evolution built for very different stakes. There's another piece to this, one that makes the picture darker still. In the 1970s, psychologist Henri Tajfel ran a deceptively simple experiment. He split volunteers into groups based on something meaningless, like a coin flip or a preference for one abstract painting over another. Complete strangers, randomly assigned, with nothing real connecting them. Almost immediately, people started favoring their own group and disadvantaging the other one, even when there was nothing to gain personally by doing it. Tajfel called it the minimal group paradigm, and it revealed something uncomfortable. Your brain doesn't need a real reason to divide the world into us and them. It just needs a label. Now stretch that same instinct across a political party, a nation, or an ideology, and you start to see why politics so easily turns tribal, and why tribal politics turns dark so fast. Once a leader can convince you that your group is under threat from another group, your ancient in-group loyalty takes over, and it will forgive almost anything done in its name. Here's something worth sitting with. Every tool modern democracies use to restrain power looks suspiciously like a scaled-up version of what small hunter-gatherer bands were already doing tens of thousands of years ago. Elections are gossip and ostracism, formalized into a ballot. Free press is the campfire rumor mill, formalized into an institution. Term limits are the ancient rule that no one gets to hold power forever. Separation of powers is simply Boehm's coalition of the weak, written into a constitution instead of whispered between huts. None of this was accidental. Historians and political theorists have long noted that the structures democracies fought hardest to build, checks, balances, transparency, are really just industrial-scale versions of the leveling instinct anthropologists find in nearly every small-scale society on Earth. Humans didn't invent a new solution to the problem of power. They rebuilt the old one, bigger, which is exactly why those structures feel so fragile whenever they weaken. Remove a free press, and you've removed the campfire gossip network. Undermine term limits, and you've removed the rule that let hunter-gatherer bands remove a tyrant before he became permanent. Erode the separation of powers, and you've dismantled the very coalition mechanism that kept alpha chimpanzees and alpha humans in check for millions of years. The dark side of politics rarely announces itself as tyranny on day one. It usually arrives quietly, as the slow removal of exactly these leveling mechanisms, one at a time, until the ancient instinct has nowhere left to land. So what happened to the ancient leveling mechanism? What happened to Boehm's political immune system, the gossip and ridicule that once kept tyrants in check? It didn't disappear. It went looking for a new target, and it found one in you. Every time you scroll past a news story and feel a flash of outrage, that's the reverse dominance instinct firing. Every pile-on, every public shaming, every viral call-out is the same ancient mechanism your ancestors used around a campfire, just running on a network of billions instead of a band of 50. The instinct is exactly the one that once kept small societies remarkably equal. But at this scale, it rarely reaches the people who actually hold power. Mostly, it lands on strangers, on public figures reduced to a single clip, on targets chosen less for what they actually did, and more for how satisfying they are to punish. You're not broken for feeling that outrage. You're running software built for exactly this situation. It's just that the situation is no longer the one that software was built for. Here's the part that should make you pause. Politics feels dark, not simply because bad people seek power. It feels dark because good, ordinary people are remarkably easy to reshape once they are handed power, distance, and a title. The Stanford guards were not selected for cruelty. The Milgram participants were not selected for obedience. Tajfel's volunteers were not selected for tribalism. They were simply placed inside a structure, and the structure did the rest. Which means the real danger was never really about finding better leaders. It was about designing systems small enough, transparent enough, and accountable enough that the ancient leveling instinct can still reach the people who actually need it. Think about the last time you checked your notifications, glanced at a follower count, or felt a small thrill when a post performed well. You were watching a miniature version of the same hierarchy your ancestors negotiated for millions of years, just rendered in likes instead of meat, in followers instead of alliances. You are not separate from this story. You're still living inside it, every single day, in rooms far smaller than a parliament. So the next time you watch the news and feel your stomach tighten, look a little closer. You are not just watching corruption. You're watching 2 million years of primate politics, still running quietly in the background, just dressed up now in suits, podiums, and fluorescent light.